Day 2 of the trial, then. Let's get started. I will shove money at you. Oh, whoops, I'm looking at the wrong part of the thing. Give me a second. I'm looking at the wrong part of the script. I'm too far behind. I gotta skip a little bit more. I got the page numbers wrong, I guess. I don't know. I can see that it's November 4th. Okay. November 4th, 9:30 in the morning in the Old Bailey Supreme Court. And it continues to be ominous. There's something I'd like to state before we begin today's trial. More shocking facts have come to light during this case, regarding the top-secret trial 10 years ago. An organization known as the Grim Reaper, who illegally executes defendants who escape their punishment in court, exists. At its center was a skilled detective, and in the midst of carrying out an assassination attempt, he became a victim himself. I would like to declare to all the members of the justice system gathered here in this courtroom today, that today is the day that we will hunt down the truth, so that not so much as a speck of doubt remains. Both sides will conduct the trial with the resolve to do just that. Okay, Vortex, I'm pretty sure you are involved in this somehow. Resolve. Your Honor, there's one thing I'd like to inquire about. What is it, defendant? Why is Asogi Kazuma still behind the prosecutor's bench today? This man accompanied the victim to carry out an assassination. I should think that should render him completely unworthy of prosecuting. I submitted a petition to Lord Hart Vortex, requesting that he hold off on delivering my punishment for just one day. Oh. What? I plan to make everything clear over the course of today's trial. You could even say that my whole life for these past 10 years has been for this very purpose. Asogi. Regardless of what form the conclusion of this trial takes, I have sworn to take any heavy punishment necessary afterwards. You do well to participate in this trial with that same level of resolve, Grim Reaper. Damn it, Asogi. This entire body is positively radiating murderous intent. Intent! Excuse me! What's this dangerous premonition I'm getting all of a sudden? Is the person standing over there really Kazuma-sama? I don't know anymore! Though it's highly irregular, I accept this man as a prosecutor. Am I understood, defense? Oh, we both decided to breathe together, okay! Yes, Your Honor. Now then, in the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I declare court to be reconvened. We will now resume the trial for the defendant, Baroque Van Zeeks. The defense is ready. So is the prosecution. At this point in the proceedings, there should be no need for any preface. Therefore, you may begin, Prosecutor Asogi. You know, we were just talking about how, like, Asogi has, like, similar animations to, like, Edgeworth. I know it's a little bit more, formal with that particular bow, but I mean, it's so similar at the same time. In that case, I'd like to call my first witness right away. Escort Jigoku Seshiro to the stand. It's finally time for the final battle. He staked everything in order to stand there and seek the truth. You better steel your resolve and face him head on. Naruhodō Ryūnosuke. Oh look, it's Gyakuten! We brought him here! Now then, witness. Kindly state your name and profession. So it was you, was it? The one who issued this? Buena. I only did what was necessary. Looks like you've gotten a little too big for your own britches, boy. To think you end up mouthing off on me, to me, like this someday. Witness, you will answer the question you were asked. My name is Jigoku Seshiro. I'm a judge in the Great Japanese Empire. 16 years ago, he visited London as a legal program exchange student and returned home to Japan 10 years ago. In addition to being a judge, he's also currently acting as the Great Japanese Empire's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Naturally, I'm familiar with his name. I invited him to the International Scientific Investigation Symposium as a judge to represent Japan. I hear he also played a large role in the execution of the Anglo-Japanese Nautical Peace Treaty. Oh, wow, that's a mouthful. Oh, what an honor! I really poured my heart and soul into that one. Judge Jigoku, if I may. Oh, have you been dead the whole time, little murderer? Excuse me? Like I said before, I was found innocent, and I'm a defense attorney now. Looks like you've got a little too big for your britches, too. You received an invitation to the International Scientific Investigation Symposium and came to visit London. And yet, without saying a word to anyone, you headed for France and tried to flee. Flee, huh? You don't mince words, do you? Why did you do such a thing? Please, explain your reason. Yeah, I figured you'd ask that. In regards to that, I refuse. Oh, God. Huh? I'm deeply sorry for just turning around and leaving England when I was invited here as a guest, but I have nothing to do with this case, nor do I have any obligation to testify. Nothing to do with it. I heard that a London detective was murdered. I offer my sympathies, of course, but there's no way a foreigner like me would know that detective. Therefore, I have nothing I can testify about. That's all. You intend to flee again? What did you say? This case isn't only about the murder of Gregson-sama. It's also connected to the murder case that occurred last year in the Great Japanese Empire. A year ago. You mean Professor John H. Watson. Plus, Judge Jigoku, you have an important role in all of this. I have evidence to prove it. I can tell by your expression, Naruhodō. You have the resolve to pursue this as well. In any case, why don't you present it? Second. What is the evidence that indicates a connection between Mr. Jigoku Seshiro and this case? I have here an international telecommunication record between England and Japan. It was transmitted a year ago and contains 4 names. K. Asogi, A. Sasha, T. Gregson, John Watts. Hold it! Damn you. Where on earth did you get that? From your office in Tokyo, Judge Jigoku. Ridiculous. When did you manage to? What's the meaning of this? What's my name doing on there? Oh, wouldn't you like to know? There's a certain pattern to these names. T. Gregson and J. Watson are both the names of victims. Kei Asogi and A. Sasha are the names of the assassins who attempted hits on those two. Yeah, Asogi, I didn't really want to present that either. That's something I didn't really want to bring up, but we're gonna have to. Last year in Tokyo, the imperial capital of the great Japanese Empire, Dr. John H. Watson was murdered in a restaurant. The killer in that case was an exchange student who called herself Giselle Bullitt. Her true name was Anne Sasha. She was an assassin sent from the Great British Empire. A. Sasha and J. Watson. In this case that occurred here in London, can be considered the reciprocal of that. The assassin dispatched from Japan, Asogi Kazuma, was also an exchange student. And the victim was a detective from the Great British Empire, Mr. Tobias Gregson. K. Asogi and T. Gregson. The assassin dispatched from Japan to England, and the English victim. Dear Lord. The Great British Empire and the Great Japanese Empire, these two murders, were planned by two masterminds as an overseas assassin exchange. And this communications record is proof of that contract. What? I don't really like this. This record was found in your chambers, Judge Gyakuten. In other words, the Japanese mastermind would have to be you. Judge Gyakuten, what is the meaning of this? Also, Asogi, you lied, didn't you? I hate to break this, man! I hate to break you! I don't want to! During yesterday's trial, you admitted to have accepted the assassination mission. But the target wasn't Judge Gyakuten. It was Detective Gregson. The name written in this record proves it. Should have expected as much from you, Naruhodō. But I didn't lie. I never said the name of the target I was ordered to assassinate. You were the one who assumed that it was Jigoku Seshiro. You withheld it. On purpose, didn't you? You claim these four names indicate an assassin exchange. I'm afraid that sounds like a pipe dream to me, and incredibly hard to believe. Well, Mr. Jigoku. That silence. Does that mean you admit it? And there's one more important fact here. It's possible that the place where the victim, Gregson-sama, was actually murdered was a cabin aboard the steamship Bar Block. In which case, Judge Jigoku, you can't escape having to testify. Oh, come on, don't glare like that. You're still so young. Very well then, I'll tell you everything, as a little gift for my trip to London. It seems as though we'll need to hear what this Japanese man has to say regarding the fearsome assassin exchange and what happened on the night of October 31st. The court orders you to testify. As you wish, Your Honor. Don't break the stand. He probably will break the stand at some point, won't he? Well, I can't. Hold on. My chair is stuck as I'm trying to adjust. Okay. Assassin exchange. It's true. I gave Asogi Kazuma an assassination mission last year. The target was Detective T. Gregson. That was the condition for his English study abroad. However, in the end, he became unable to fulfill that mission. The night of the incident, there were crew members patrolling in front of the cabin doors for regular security. If there'd been a gunshot, they would have heard it. That means I have nothing to do with this murder. See, when you say things like that, that only makes you more likely the culprit. So then, it's just as indicated by this record. There actually was a transaction for exchanging assassins, wasn't there? It's high-level government stuff. I can't talk about it here. Yes, you can! This is like a private trial! Making an assassination the condition for a study abroad in the Great British Empire. What a cowardly transaction! Go, Susato. Cowardly. I wonder about that. Huh? Osogi Kazuma had a reason to murder that English detective. What? That's precisely why he accepted the mission. Isn't that right, Osogi Kazuma? Kazuma-sama. Judge Jigoku, if you were in fact the mastermind on the Japanese side, then who was the person on the English side who made the exchange with you? I'm looking at Vortex. I have no need to tell you that. As I said yesterday, I didn't kill anyone. I admit that I accepted the mission, but I didn't carry it out that night. In other words, the assassin exchange you mentioned has nothing to do with this case. I bet it does! There's only one important thing here, and that's that the English detective wasn't killed aboard the steamship at Dunkirk Harbor. If a gunshot had been fired in my cabin, the crew would have heard it. But we saw a bullet hole in his cabin. Precisely. After Detective Gregson returned to London, he was murdered on Fresno Street. And the one who took him out was the Grim Reaper, Baroque Van Zeeks. The prosecution's claim hasn't changed. To think that an exchange like this could be lurking behind the legal exchange program last year. It's a plot that only could have been carried out by the witness, who is both a judge and a minister of foreign affairs. So that makes you the other person, doesn't it? It seems I recall that one who approached me about the deal was the one in this country, though. I seem to recall that the one who approached me about the deal. Regardless, the matter this trial is dealing with is not the suspicious assassin exchange. This is purely concerning Detective Gregson's murder. Am I understood, defense? Yes, Your Honor. I will now conduct my cross-examination. I have many feelings right now. I don't like where this is gonna go. Night of the incident, there were crew members patrolling in front of the cabin doors for regular security. Okay, my Japanese is not that great, but there should be a schedule somewhere. Yes, there. Let me present that crew activity schedule. That's true. It does indeed seem that there were crew members posted outside Judge Jigoku's cabin for security. However, at the very least, that wasn't normal. What? I have here a notification regarding the plans for the day of October 31st. Damn you! Where did you... The detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes, obtained it as evidence. You must have run into him yesterday as well. Sherlock Holmes. According to this activity schedule, for a span of 20 minutes at 10 p.m. after departure from Dunkirk, all the members of the crew on the RFS bar block gathered up on deck. The crew all left their post. During this 20-minute gap, even if a gunshot had been fired in your cabin, there would have been no one around to hear it. Which means, Judge Jigoku, that you had an opportunity to commit the murder. 20-minute gap, huh? What a fascinating theory, Naruhodō. But there's no point in trying to rely on possibilities at this point. What do you mean? The witness has clearly testified that the murder didn't occur in his cabin. Unless you have decisive evidence in order to dismantle the testimony, there's no point in quibbling over possibilities. A fair point. Well, defense. Detective Gregson was murdered that night in Judge Gyakuten cabin. And I've got the evidence to prove it. In that case, the court orders the defense to present that evidence. What is the evidence that indicates that the victim was murdered in Gyakuten cabin on October 31st? I feel like I've seen something similar pretty frequently. The thing that sticks out on the top of a pocket watch. You twist it in order to set the time. It's called a crown. It's a necessary part for a clock. A crown. It seems like a rather exaggerated name. But more importantly, right, if this is a crown, I feel like I know of a king who happens to have lost his crown. We'd better have another good look. Is something wrong, Susato-san? It's the shape of this hole. I feel like we have something that should fit it perfectly. You're right. Actually, I was thinking the same thing. Perhaps this part belongs to Gregson-sama's broken pocket watch. Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. It fits perfectly! Whoa! It's just like we thought. She's looking at me doubtfully. In any case, let's make a note of this information. A dragon's head, huh? Interesting. Small part found in Judge Gyakuten cabin. Actually the crown to Detective Gregson's watch. Judge Gyakuten, this was found in your cabin. That appears to be a crown from a broken pocket watch. A watch. And if you could direct your attention to this now, this was the victim's beloved broken pocket watch. And as you can see, the crown is missing. You can't mean. And this crown fits the victim's pocket watch perfectly. The fact that this was lying in Judge Gyakuten cabin means that the victim's broken pocket watch was broken there. In other words, the victim's time of death was on the 31st during that 20-minute gap. In your cabin, Judge Gyakuten! Not bad, little murderer. I want to punch this guy! Don't call him a murderer! He hasn't done anything! That's some impressive proof, Naruhodō. Your claim does indeed sound plausible. However, it's covered in cracks, just like this pocket watch. What? And it appears that His Honor shares my opinion. I can't help remembering last year when I gave you that not guilty verdict. Right. If I'd known that I have to listen to such worthless claims later on as a result, perhaps the world would have been better off if I declared you guilty. Wow! I want to punch your face! It would seem that we'll need to have this witness testify once more. You want to know what happened in my cabin that night? Once you hear it, You ought to notice the pitfall in your theory. Before you testify, there's just one thing I'd like to confirm. Considering that this piece was found in your room, did you admit to the fact that the victim visited your cabin? Yes, I admit it. Very well. In that case, the court requests further testimony regarding what happened in your cabin on the night of October 31st. As a judge from the Great Japanese Empire, I have no intention of withholding my cooperation. Yeah, that's total bullshit. You say what you want, Jigoku. You were a cool judge! Now you're just a jerk! What happened in the ship cabin? I had a guest that evening after I returned from dinner. Awaiting me in my cabin was one mustached Englishman. He recklessly aimed a gun at me. I ended up scoring an Ippon Soi. What? Ippon Soi on him then. Hikari, I'm so sorry. Soi? I'm gonna just put that in there because I can't pronounce it properly. And I'm butchering it. Oh no, I gotta say it a lot of times, don't I? I think I got Ippon right. Soi? Seoi? Scoring an Ippon Seoi? Okay. Ippon Soi on him. And the Englishman ran for it. That must have been when the watch broke. It had nothing to do with the murder. The detective was murdered after returning to England. His body was discovered in London, after all. You scored an Ippon Seoi on him. In a term from the proud art of judo, which is practiced in the Great Japanese Empire, it means to land a blow. I went easy on him, but my concern didn't extend to the crown on his watch. All Japanese people just know martial arts? Jesus. Naruhodō Ryūnosuke. Do you understand your oversight now? Even if his watch was broken in that cabin, that doesn't guarantee that the murder occurred there. Ah! Wall slamming? Did we have a wall slam this whole time? Is that first? That detective must have been waiting in my room to kill me, but I suppose he wasn't able to pull the trigger. The detective was only the brains behind the Grim Reaper. It sounds as though this testimony makes sense. I'm deeply grateful for your opinion, Your Honor. If we accept this testimony as fact, Judge Jigoku will end up being declared unrelated to the murder. Well, defense, I can't imagine that a cross-examination would be necessary here. You know what? It's gonna be necessary. The defense has the right to a cross-examination. I don't intend to surrender it. You don't know when to withdraw, do you? You bring shame upon Japanese men everywhere. Oh, shut up! In that case, the defense will conduct its cross-examination. I can't wait to destroy this judge now! The detective was murdered after returning to England. His body was discovered in London, after all. But there's no proof that the victim returned to London alive. In that case, why don't you try thinking it through calmly once, student boy? Think what, though? If the detective were killed aboard a steamship in France, how do you claim it was possible for him to return home to England? Eh? When people die, they leave a body behind. It's an incredibly inconvenient thing, a body. Well, obviously we can assume that the murderer carried it. How? You're not claiming he could have disembarked from the ship carrying a body, are you? It was in a suitcase. Oh, I see why why you all were yelling at me about that one picture. Well, no, but all passenger luggage aboard the steamship undergoes a search. Gyakouten's stuff wasn't searched! Customs would never allow a dead body of an English gentleman through in someone's luggage. Gyakouten's luggage would! For starters, if he were murdered on the ship, all they would have to do is throw the body into the sea. There'd be no need to go to risk of bringing it back to England. Wait, what? What? There'd be no need to go to risk of bringing it back to England. Okay. How am I What is the sentence? There is an extra 2. Okay. Wait, go to the risk. There's no need to go through the risk? Through the risk. Wait, there's no need to go through the risk of bringing it back. That might work. There's no need to go to the risk. Oh, you're fine, Akari. I'm just having a hard time today. I did have a drink today. Okay, you know what? Let's work with this. There would be no need to go through the risk of bringing it back to England. I have no rebuttal for that. But Susato-san? The first-class cabin block was basically under surveillance the entire time. That means the killer likely wouldn't have had an opportunity to dispose of the body into the sea. Good point. That's why the murderer had no choice but to bring the victim's body back to England. Oh my. Just a novice student after all, are we? It appears I'll need to spell this out to you. I'd like to amend my testimony. Do you mind, Your Honor? That won't be a problem. The witness may amend his testimony. It would have been impossible for me to smuggle the victim's body into England with me. Yeah, right. You know why? You know why I don't believe you, buddy? You claim that you had no way of smuggling a body. But I'm afraid the opposite was true, Judge Gyakuten. The opposite. You're the only person who had a way of smuggling Detective Griggs' body into the Great British Empire. What do you mean, Naruhodō? Judge Gyakuten, as the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Great Japanese Empire, he was exempt from having his luggage searched when he entered the country. Oh boy. I believe you mentioned that when we first met you here in London. I believe you mentioned that. In many cases, customs ended up taking a long time checking my luggage. I'm rather envious of Mr. Cabinet Minister here who was excused from inspection. Really? I guess you would be, huh? Oh, Gyakuten. We wanted you to be the jolly Japanese judge, but you're not the jolly Japanese judge at all. I believe you'll recall this, Judge Gyakuten. This is a photo we took together in the lobby of your hotel when you arrived in London. As we can see, you're carrying a trunk. And it was a huge enough trunk to be able to fit a dead body inside. Naruhodō-sama, then you can't mean... I'm afraid so. When we met those two in the hotel 3 days ago, he had Detective Griggs' body in his trunk. Oh boy! There was a dead person with them the whole time! Order! 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 But even if it was a large trunk, could a dead body really have fit inside? It would. After all, Even burly Judge Gyakuten himself managed to fit into it. Confirming that would be quite easy. Isn't that right, Judge Gyakuten? Jerry! Inside his trunk. How terrifying. After you met us in the lobby of the Gateway Water Hotel, it would have been possible for you to head for the crime scene on Fresno Street. You loaded your trunk into the carriage in order to leave the body there. Damn you! If you just let me speak! Dr. Gillenay, who performed the autopsy, admitted it. She said that there were signs on the body that indicate that fabrication had been performed to throw off the estimated time of death. It would have been possible to delay decomposition of the body if it were placed inside an icebox. But, as stated yesterday, the number of places containing a large enough icebox to put a body inside are very limited. Yes. Let's say, for example, a giant steamship. In order to carry food during a long sea voyage, they're fitted with electric-powered iceboxes. Same is true of the RFS bar block. Whoops. That's what we heard from Professor Mikatoba. What do you have to say for yourself, Judge Gyakuten? No matter how many explanations you provide, you won't ever be able to hide it. All the clues indicate you. How amusing. It seems that allowing you to study abroad in the Great British Empire was the correct choice after all. What do you mean? Logic. In the dawning of the new century, logic is precisely what our courts will be needing. It looks as though you've managed to absorb the skill well. In the dawning new century. Oh, I misread that. Okay. I think it would be best if you stopped trying to change the subject, Gyakuten-sama. Please, respond to the defense's indictment. Respond? I don't see any point in that. Yes, this is the last case. Huh? When was the victim killed? If you're unable to clear up that issue, and there's just one thing you need to prove in order to learn that answer. Where was the victim killed? That's what logic is. A true crime scene. The prosecution's claim hasn't changed. It was in the room of Fresno Street where the gunshot was heard. He was killed when the defendant, Baroque Van Zeek, shot him at point-blank range. So you need to let that go. Unless you're able to completely debunk the prosecution's claim, then the defense's deduction is no more than a mere fairy tale. And that's British-style logic for you, student boy. Well, I'm glad you're not calling him a murderer. The victim was shot in that little room on Fresno Street and died instantly. Is that the claim of the prosecution's? It's that claim of the prosecution's that amounts to nothing more than a fairy tale. Whoops. This is what happened. I'm looking at the computer screen, so I'm not looking down at my 3DS. What? After all, that claim contradicts a certain piece of evidence. Fascinating. In that case, the court will hear the defense's thoughts. Detective Gregson was shot at the crime scene on Fresno Street and died instantly. The evidence that contradicts that claim of the prosecution is... Saving. Just in case. There's a lot lot of evidence now, and I'm sitting here like, what was the crime scene photo again? This is the crime scene photo of the victim. The problem is the posture of the body shown in the photo. If Detective Gregson really was shot in that room, then there's no way he would have collapsed all curled up like this. Objection. Unfortunately, I'm afraid that's not logical. Isn't it possible that he curled up in agony after he hit the floor? Unfortunately, I'm afraid that's not logical. What? According to the autopsy report, the victim died immediately. If he weren't in any pain, he couldn't have curled up like that. In that case, why is the victim's body curled up? Isn't the answer already clear? You can't mean. The body was stuffed inside a trunk and carried to Fresno Street. Then, it was dumped out of the trunk and onto the floor. What? You're right. Judging by the posture of the body, it's almost as if he had been forced into a cramped space. Judge Gyakuten, please present your trunk. There may be blood traces from the victim inside. I refuse to submit it. What? Why? I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Great Japanese Empire. I have neither the obligation nor the intention of entertaining baseless conjecture. So, in other words, there really are blood traces remaining in your trunk. I refuse to testify. As the Minister of Foreign Affairs, it's my special... Right now, you're not the Minister of Foreign Affairs. You're a witness in a British court of law. Witnesses are not permitted to conceal things in court, regardless of who they are. It's all for the sake of the truth. Order, order! Gyakuten, say something. No. Did you kill the detective? How shameless of you, Asogi Kazuma. What? Very well. I admit it. I did indeed carry that detective's body. I put him in my trunk, just as the defense said. Huh? What? Dear God Almighty. So then, the one who killed Detective Gregson really was... However, that's all I'll admit. After all, I have no memory of killing that detective. And just what does that mean, Mr. Gyakuten? All I did was dispose of the detective's body after it was left in my cabin. Having strange suspicions fall on me would have been a problem after all. Just as the legal aid there said, I had no opportunity to dump it into the ocean. So I decided to stuff it in my trunk and smuggle it into the Great British Empire. Ridiculous! Then who do you claim killed Detective Gregson? There was one other person who had the opportunity to murder the detective that night, was there not? To top it all off, he'd even accepted the mission of killing the detective. That's right! The one who did it was Asogi Kazuma. Obviously. Damn you. I wonder if you might pull something like this. How pathetic, Jikoku Seshiro. That's my line, Asogi Kazuma. Lord Prosecutor. You thought you could pin the crime on me by leaving the body in my cabin, didn't you? Excuse me? Excuse me? A fair point. On the night in question, the prosecutor has admitted to having visited the witness's cabin. For the sake of an assassination mission, at that. Damn you. Now, what say you, novice student boy? That's all the testimony I have to give. I don't intend to admit to anything further. How despicable. Defense, state your thoughts regarding this witness's accusation. The one who murdered the detective that night was Asogi Kazuma. This isn't a dead end. The answer lies ahead. Asogi Kazuma, or Jikoku Seshiro. Two people who had the opportunity to murder Detective Gregson. I just need to take this one step further. This is it. The defense will now state its opinion on Judge Jikoku's accusation. The possibility that Asogi Kazuma murdered the victim, doesn't exist, doesn't exist. Judge Jikoku, you previously stated the following. In the dawning new century, logic is precisely what our courts will be needing. I certainly did. The logic has been proven. The logic that Asogi Kazuma couldn't possibly have committed the murder. Didn't Gregson die by a gunshot? What? The only thing that can lend weight to logic is evidence. Therefore, the court orders the defense to present some. Evidence that proves that Asogi couldn't have committed the murder is... That prelude to pursuit, so good! That's proven by the activities of the RFS Barra Block crew. The Barra Block. Judge Jikoku, the moment you admitted to the existence of the body, you completely turned around the significance of this schedule. Turned it around. There were crew members patrolling outside the cabin doors that night. And during that time, a gun couldn't have been fired in the cabin at the time. The patrolling crew couldn't possibly have missed a gunshot after all. In other words, the murder occurred when the crew were away from the door, which would mean that it had to have happened during that 20-minute space after 10 p.m. Indeed, your logic is sound. What's important here is the fact that at the time the RFS Barra Block, what's important here is the fact that at that time the RFS Barra Block had already departed from Dunkirk. Ugh. The only one who could have committed the murder was of course someone who was on board the ship at that time. However, Asogi Kazuma clearly stated this yesterday. I didn't come to the Great British Empire in order to kill anyone. And I spent the night in an inn in Dunkirk. The next day I returned to England. And, did I skip a line? Shrugs! I think I went too fast. Oh well. And just now it was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's completely impossible for Asogi Kazuma to have committed this murder. Ugh! Oh. Take that. Hold on. You can't be willing to accept this. What do you mean? People can say anything they want. I got off the ship. You expect anyone to buy that? He left my cabin and just hid on the ship somewhere. Then he waited for his chance to commit the murder and... That's impossible. Isn't that right, Asogi?
Oh, teamwork! Hey, look, it's our teamwork!
It's just as the defense says. I disembarked from the steamship and spent the night at an inn at Dunkirk Harbor. As I stated yesterday, I signed the inn's guest book. If you inquire at the inn, you'll know right away. It's impossible.
No!
Now you truly have nowhere to run. At this moment, you're neither a judge nor a minister of foreign affairs. Answer in your own words.
Oh, here we go!
You murdered Detective Gregson and carried his body back to the Great British Empire. Then, you arranged the room on Fresno Street. Well, what do you have to say for yourself, Judge Jikoku Seshiro? Everything started here, 10 years ago in this courtroom. Thinking back, maybe my fate was sealed that day.
Uh-oh. He's gonna break the stand, isn't he?
Oh, there goes the... Yep. There goes the stand.
What?
So this is it for Chijoku Seshiro.
Without any trials.
An English assassin will make the crossing to dispose of the doctor. The Japan assassin will make the crossing to England and dispose of the detective. Both assassins will claim consular jurisdiction, and after they receive their not guilty verdicts, they'll skip on home to their own countries. The proposal for the assassin exchange came from England 1 year ago. Though it was less a proposal and obviously more of a demand. That's when you nominated Asogi Kazuma as the assassin, isn't it? But the assassin never arrived in the Great British Empire, and you became unable to send a replacement assassin. When I went to England as an exchange student in his place, Or is this when I was sent? When I was sent, okay.
Also, this track that's playing.
I think that's what, yeah. When I was sent to England as an exchange student in his place. Therefore, there was only one way that I could fulfill my end of the bargain. I'd have to dispose of the target with my own hands. And there was only one possible chance for me to do that. Do you mean the International Scientific Investigation Symposium? That's right. If possible, I wanted to finish the deed before I arrived in the Great British Empire. So, after consulting the person on the English side of things, I requested that the arrangements be made for the detective be sent to Dunkirk. The bait used to draw him there was a mission for the Grim Reaper.
What?
The Grim Reaper? There's only one person who could have given that detective a mission for the Grim Reaper. The only one who knew such a trick could be used was the Grim Reaper himself.
So then, you mean that the assassin exchange was a transaction set up with the Great British Grim Reaper?
I can't speak about the person on the English side. The detective believed that he'd really been given a mission as the Grim Reaper and snuck into my cabin, but it was all a trap to ensure that I would be able to dispose of him in France.
How horrible.
It was after 9 that night when I returned from the dining hall to my cabin. I didn't give the detective an opportunity to attack. I choked him out with my judo stranglehold. There were crew members outside my door. It would have been bad if they happened to hear any strange noises by chance. So, for the sake of precaution, I waited for the right time. 10 p.m., the 20-minute gap. At first, I intended to strangle him to death, but right before I could do so, suddenly regain consciousness and unexpectedly attack. The British-style pistol that was issued to me as a member of the justice system 16 years ago during my study abroad. I never imagined that I'd have to use it like that. So then, this weapon was yours. The victim was murdered in the ship cabin of the RFS Bar block. So then how did it come to be that he was discovered in that room of Fresno Street here in London? As the legal aid there stated earlier, I wasn't able to carry the body up to the deck and dumped it into the sea. There was security on deck, and there were also crew members protecting the door to my cabin. So, the first thing I did was carry the body to the refrigeration room. And then you hid the body in your trunk and decided to smuggle it into the Great British Empire. A certain amount of fabrication was needed in order to have the body found in London. Apparently, you understood, Judge Gyakuten, that everything about Detective Gregson's time schedule for that mission, I mean. Yes, I received a fair amount of information from the person on the English side. 5 o'clock at Fresno Street. Meet a man named Hugh Boone in order to get back the ID. That didn't happen! That's why I decided to make it look as though that man were the killer. With that purpose in mind, I loaded my trunk with the body in it onto an express carriage and headed for the crime scene. You mean after this photo was taken? I was a little startled at the time that you two came all the way to the hotel to see us. I happened to see that peddler girl on Fresno Street. She was selling some little firecrackers. She must mean Venus-san. That's when I thought up the trick with the candle. So, I donned a simple disguise and bought some fireworks from that girl. A disguise. For some reason, there was a bright red wig in the detective's trunk. I put it on. I feel like I actually ended up attracting more attention because of it, though. Jigoku with a red wig?!
So it must have been that he prepared for the investigation.
Sentence. It must have been he prepared for the investigation of the red-headed lead, the one we found at the crime scene. What is that sentence supposed to say? So I can change it while I'm here? You're fine! Dude, translating is not easy.
It must have been the one he prepared for the investigation of the Red-Headed League. The one we found at the crime scene.
It was about 15 minutes before 5 p.m. that I entered that room that day. I placed the body in the room and moved the bulletin board. Then I set up the candle trick, in order to cause a gunshot-like sound in that room 15 minutes later. As a trap for the man who would arrive at the crime scene at 5 p.m. I see. But at the very last moment, I made one major mistake.
A mistake? Could you perhaps be referring to the fish and chips?
When I was carrying him to the refrigeration room, I failed to notice it falling out of his pocket. The next day, I noticed, so I picked it up and put it back in his pocket, but apparently had already begun to spoil thanks to the heating in the cabin. Fish and chips saves the day, yo! And that's everything I, Jigoku Seshiro, did. I'm gonna be taking a break pretty soon. Somewhere in the afterlife. Oh, poor Gregson. That's enough. It seems as though we've finally arrived at the truth behind the murder of the talented detective that the Great British Empire took so much pride in. This man's trial will be conducted at a later date. But it's quite a serious crime. You best prepare yourself mentally for execution. Oh! Oh!
An assassin exchange. What a foolish notion.
Jikoku-san, please! Just tell us one last thing.
Who was the English mastermind who ordered you to cooperate in the assassination exchange?
You can't run anymore. You should just tell us this final detail. Shut up! I can't tell you what I can't tell you. Even though this means you'll never set foot in your homeland again. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and put an end to this farce. It's all over. It's over. Oh, you guys are making me feel good now. Good feelings all around in the chat. In that case, by the power vested in me by Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this man guilty on the charge of murdering Tobias Gregson. Oh, Jigoku Seshiro, hear your verdict. I think I missed a line. Oh. Okay, no, I didn't. Jigoku Seshiro, hear your verdict. Guilty! Don't forget that everything regarding today's trial was top secret. Jigoku has just signed a confession for the murder of Detective Gregson and then proceeding to smuggle his body. In other words, this has proven the defendant's innocence.
We did it, Naruhodō-sama.
Yes, we sure did.
Is something wrong?
No, it's just something's bothering me. It's his silence. The true identity of the Grim Reaper who's made the Supreme Court is dead. The other figure the Japanese man mentioned as having orchestrated the assassin exchange. There are still these few mysteries which remain unsolved. However, we can consider the conclusion to have been reached on the crimes with which he's been charged in this trial. I would like to request that those remaining mysteries be pursued. As a prosecutor. Very well. Allow me to hand down a verdict for this trial. The defendant, Baroque Van Zieks, is... I'd like to request that you hold off on that verdict, Your Honor. Prosecutor Asogi. The defendant's innocence still hasn't been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. Therefore, handing down a verdict at this point would be premature. That's the prosecution's claim. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. What?
But Jikoku Seshiro has already confessed to the murder.
Even so, Baroque Van Zieks has committed a crime for which he must be judged. It would seem that the court ought to hear your claim, Prosecutor Asogi. Jikoku Seshiro did indeed murder Detective Gregson. However, that was because he was coerced into cooperating with a certain plot. A ruthless murder plot, in the form of an assassin exchange between England and Japan. You're right, it was, but... Then who was the one who coerced Jikoku Seshiro? The victim believed that he'd been given a mission for the Grim Reaper and headed for France, and was then murdered. In other words, the mastermind behind the assassin exchange, the person who was able to give such orders, was the Grim Reaper himself. That's already been made clear. That's true. We can indeed assume that. The prosecution would like to formally indict the defendant, Baroque Van Zieks, as the Grim Reaper of Old Bailey, and the prosecution will proceed to prove it and charge him with that crime. What? Oh boy. Oh boy! Asogi, no! Asogi, no, indeed! Order! 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 What's this about stream for the Ace Attorney community? I don't stream enough Ace Attorneys, so... The Grim Reaper of Old Bailey. But how on earth do you intend to prove such a thing?
Scotland Yard is already conducting a thorough investigation on Lord Van Zieks. As such, there must not have been any evidence found to indicate that he's the Grim Reaper.
However, the situation has now changed. What do you mean? We've determined that the Grim Reaper performed a transaction with Jikoku in the form of this assassin exchange. We can now pursue the matter of his identity from that angle. That is the prosecution's theory. Shocking. To think you would be willing to go that far in order to make me a criminal. You have committed an unforgivable crime, Lord Baroque Van Zieks. I will have you persecuted for it, at any cost, no matter what I must do. Oh my god, no! Asogi Kazuma, is this the meaning behind your silence before? He's intending to have Lord Van Zieks charged for what he did 10 years ago. Very well. Though it's highly irregular situation, the court shall provide the prosecution an opportunity to present further proof. Proof regarding the defendant, the so-called Grim Reaper, and the assassin exchange. Allow me to express my respect for the court's wise judgment. I hereby declare that the court will now transition into a secondary trial. Oh God. Okay, sure! As imprudent as it was of me to evade the accusation that I'm the Grim Reaper with a sip from the Lord's chalice, I hope you will look upon my act with some leniency.
Lord Van Zieks!
It was 10 years ago that I started being known as the Grim Reaper. I had previously resigned myself to the title and simply accepted it, but I would like to be permitted to testify about it in my own words. Right here, right now. I wouldn't have it any other way. I was hoping you'd say that, Lord Baroque Van Zieks. The prosecution will start building its case on this matter by requesting the defendant's testimony regarding the prosecution's accusation that the defendant is the Grim Reaper. What is the defense's opinion?
Allowing the defendant to testify could end up being incredibly dangerous for us. Besides, Kazuma-sama is currently blinded from logic by his emotions.
You're right. Asogi isn't himself right now. But we're aware of it. And I've resolved to face him head on, even in this state, until the very end. Both as a defense attorney and as his friend.
Understood.
The defense has no objections. Very well, in that case. The court asks that the defendant testify about himself and the Grim Reaper and the assassin exchange deal. As you wish. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop and take a break right here. Yeah, right here. Good spot. Good spot. So, 5 minutes. Just add 5 minutes.